into, I guess it's about week 4, week 5 of our pandemic. It's April the 21st. We're into the 5th week now of this so-called lockdown. I see a few more cars on the road today than I did a couple of weeks ago when I was out. Today's a nice day, and rather than stay at home and go stir crazy, I figured I would take my car out for a little drive. So we're going to go a little tour today. I think we'll head over the Golden Ears Bridge, and we're going to drive the countryside on the north side out towards the Mission Way and maybe head over towards Hope. But I figured today is a nice day. You know, it's kind of, the weather is nice, it's sunny, but it's kind of a bit overcast, and I thought, perfect day for shooting a video. So for you guys that want to see some scenery, we're going to see some nice scenery today. I'll be chatting with you a bit, and we'll play some music in the background. And that's what we're doing today to kill some time. Normally I would be doing this on my Harley. I will be doing this run on my Harley, but today, because it could rain, I'm not one for riding in the rain. I'm a good weather rider only. So if there's a chance of rain, the bike's staying in the garage. I take the car out. So this is my way of practicing social distancing today. I'll be socially distancing from everybody by staying in my car. And we'll put some miles on, burn some of the gas up. The gas has been sitting in my car now since last September. I'm still running on the same gas that I put in this car back in September. I have put on almost 9,000 kilometers on this tank of fuel since I filled up last. So today we'll be taking a little drive, and I'm going to try and burn off the little bit of gas that remains, and then I can fill it up because the price of gas now is cheap. Yesterday, for the first time in history, oil was in negative territory. The oil producers were having to pay the refineries $37 a barrel to take their oil, because right now with the whole pandemic thing, there's been a lot fewer cars on the road, and there hasn't been the demand for oil. So right now we're sitting on a bunch of oil that they can't do anything with, and the price has plummeted. So that means I'll be able to stop and fill up cheaper than I've seen the fuel probably in the last 25-30 years. It's like 80 years. I think it was, I saw it yesterday at like 88 cents a liter or something, 87 cents, 86 cents, 87 cents, somewhere in there. Yesterday I saw it at a gas station, which is still a lot, but we pay a lot of taxes here. But last year at this time our gas was about $1.70 a liter, so a lot cheaper. So I figured today is a perfect day to fill this thing up. I'll burn up some gas and top up the tank, and then I'll be good for the rest of the summer, depending on where I go this summer. Anyway, we'll pick this up in a bit when I get into a little more scenic areas here. I see that the camera here is reacting slowly to the G-forces of going around those corners. I'm just recording this on my little gimbal camera. That's why the picture is pretty smooth. We'll pick this up momentarily. Well, this is certainly nothing that I would have ever expected. On the freeway, there is a traffic jam. And I've got all these big trucks around me on all sides because this is a truck route. But this particular freeway, this is Highway 17, also called the South Fraser Perimeter Road. Well, they've got a couple traffic lights on here. And they've got a section where the freeway slows down to 50 clicks. Looks like they're working on the road today, so there's a little bit of a traffic jam here. I've been sitting in this traffic for about 10 minutes now, and normally this is not something you would expect on a major freeway like this. Well, there's what the big holdup is. What the heck are they doing? Drilling something? Looks like that's a drilling unit, doesn't it? And of course, traffic light, and they got the road closed off to one lane just before that traffic light. But yeah, this is I don't know what the heck that machine is doing. Looks like some type of a drilling rig of some type. What is it that they're doing? They are drilling a hole in the road. Go figure. Okay, now we can make some time. Only took us about 23 minutes to get through there. So this is Golden Ears Parkway. Gonna head over the Golden Ears Bridge. I think I've only been over this bridge once since it was built. And that was right after they took the tolls off of it. It was a toll bridge when it was first built. And a couple years ago, when the government changed, one of their election promises was they were going to remove the tolls on the bridges, which they did. So the night that the toll came off, both this and the Portman Bridge, the toll came off at midnight. So I made a point of driving out here. I think I got it on record somewhere too. But I drove out here and I waited. And at like 1 minute after midnight, I drove across the bridge. I timed it so that I would get out here in time for midnight. And then when midnight rolled along, I was one of the first people to go over the bridge and not have to pay $5 or whatever, $4 or whatever the toll was. And that's the only time I've been over this bridge. I believe this area is called Coquihalla. It's out by Langley. Yeah, Coquihalla. 92nd Street. Man, this area sure changed since I was out here last. It's been a long, long time since I've been out in this area. It's probably been 15 years or so. I used to come out here to get materials. There was a supplier that I dealt with back in the days when I was putting up satellite dishes there for a bit. I've done a bit of everything. But in the time between when I left the TV repair shop and where I'm currently working, I worked as an installer for the two satellite companies. And I used to have to go and buy my own supplies, buy coaxial cable and connectors and clips and all that stuff that I had to give away. And I had to come all the way out here because the place that had the best price on cabling and clips and stuff was way in hell gone out of here, and it was substantially cheaper than some of the mainstream suppliers. Like I think I was paying 4 cents a foot for RG6 coax. It was Chinese coax. Well, probably would burn if it got going, but the difference between Chinese coax and American coax is about 34 cents a foot. I think the Belden or the CommScope cable was around 40 cents a foot wholesale, and the cheap Chinese cable I was using was 4 or 6 cents a foot. Again, this all had to be given away, right? When the way that Bell and Shaw, which was Star Choice at the time, but it was still Shaw, but the way that they paid their installers, it was per job. So it didn't matter how long, whether it took you an hour or it took you 4 hours, you got the same rate no matter what. And you had to supply everything. Like you had to supply every screw, every clip, every bolt, everything other than what came in the box. You had to supply, and it was all provided free of charge. You could not bill the person for it because they were told a free installation. So all those supplies came out of the flat fee that they paid the installers, which was around, I think it was about $65 or $70 for an install. And that meant you burned your own gas to get there. You paid for your own supplies. Every clip, every screw, every staple, every connector, every foot of cable. That came out of that $65 or $70 payment. So it was your bottom line. So of course you're going to use the absolute cheapest cable and the cheapest connectors that you can get your hands on, because that's taking food off the table. That's the way it was. It was a really ugly dog-eat-dog world. Gotta love this. It's 60 kilometers an hour over this bridge and everybody's doing 100. You know, it's like crazy, huh? Well, maybe it was 80, because now it's dropping to 70. But everybody's still doing 100. So we're heading to Highway 7. We're going to take the Highway 7 run and head east on Highway 7. So I got to get over here because I got to exit here pretty quick. We're going to take the Highway 7 run and go east on Highway 7 through Maple Ridge and out that way on the north side of the river and see what we can see today. Because, you know, this is a nice little run here. Now, this guy in this truck thinks he's going to go past me on the right. So I got to speed up to 90 to stop a truck from passing me because it's a 70 zone. But big truck behind me figures that he can just put the pedal to the metal. Now it's in 50 zone and we're still doing like 85. Full regenerative braking. Love it. Haven't even touched my brakes. Okay, now I'll put the brakes on just to come to a dead stop. Gotta like that full regenerative braking. It does a pretty good job of slowing you down. So now we're gonna get on to the low heat highway. So much for the no traffic that we saw last week. Man, there's a lot of cars out today. A lot more than I thought I would see out here, that's for sure. And gas price here is just as expensive as it is back home. Actually, it's more expensive. I think it was 93 back home. It's 97.9 here. Not that I have to worry about it. I've got lots of gas left in my tank here. I'll have more than enough for the drive today. And that's the whole purpose of this little run that I'm doing today, is just to burn up some of the fuel. The car will make me burn it anyway. If I hadn't used it by September, it would come on and 95, now a little cheaper. It would come on and make me burn the fuel, because it only allows the fuel to stay in the tank for a year. But it's cheap now. I wanted something to do, and I figured today maybe we'll use up some of it. I'm still on electric power at this point. I've still got lots of battery life left too. I've still got like half of the battery. I'm in Maple Ridge and I've still got half the battery on my car. I have almost enough if I turned around now to head home, I have probably almost enough to make it home. And I've done a total of, so far, I've done 60 kilometers. The battery's good for about 90, and I've done, 57. So I got almost enough battery to make it back home if I were to turn around at this distance. Yeah, I used to come out here a lot when I was in the satellite business. I did that for just over a year. I did that in 2003 when I got fed up with the TV repair business and told my boss where he could go and how to get there. In, I don't know as many words. I think I showed up for work one day. If you want to know the story why I got out of the TV repair business, I'll tell you. I don't know if I've shared this with you guys or not, but the guy I worked for was not the nicest guy in the world, and that's I'm being nice by saying that. He could be an absolute ass. Usually he was. You go into work and you'd get yelled at. I'd get yelled at for things that I had nothing to do with. I'd get yelled at because Sony didn't have parts in stock and we had to wait a couple weeks to get them. You know, I would get yelled at if I ordered an extra part that I didn't need, because there was many cases where you'd get multiple component failure. And that is actually what I quit. I quit over a part, believe it or not. It was a Sony 36-inch Trinitron, and Sony had a problem with a flyback transformer issue that affected a lot of their TVs. Not every set the flyback transformer failed on, but it failed on a very high percentage of these 32 and 36-inch and 40-inch monsters. This particular one was a 36-inch. I had a 36-inch set come in, and it was dead. And the horizontal output transistor was shorted. Now, sometimes the horizontal output will short for any reason. Power surge, loss of drive, a big common problem on Sony Trinitron TVs, not just the big ones, but all of them, was a solder connection on the horizontal drive transformer would fracture, and it would cause the horizontal drive signal that supplied the base of the output transistor with a distorted waveform, which could cause the transistor, when it went into conduction, the way a horizontal output transistor operates is it switches on just for a pulse and then it's off. And that's what's creating the pulse for the horizontal retrace, which goes through the flyback and also is used to hammer the yoke to bring the spot back to the other side of the screen. Anyway, loss of drive on the horizontal output transistor will generally kill the transistor, because the transistor is designed to handle a very high voltage, about 1,000 volt peak to peak, and maybe up to, I think, 5 or 10 amps of collector to emitter current, but it can only handle that for like nanoseconds. It can't handle that current for an extended period, or it's going to go pop. So distortion on the drive signal causes a lot of the transistors to go pop. And when that happens, you resolder the connection that's cracked, you put a new transistor in it, you send the TV on its way. But a lot of these televisions, they had bad flyback transformers that would develop an internal short. Either one of the diodes for the high voltage would go bad in the voltage multiplier, the tripler or quadrupler or whatever configuration they had in their series of diodes and capacitors inside the integrated high voltage transformer tripler combination. Or one of the windings itself, just a breakdown of insulation, and you get a short on one of the windings, and that would, of course, the transformer was shot. Well, that would also, of course, blow the transistor. The problem is you don't know whether the transformer has failed until you change the transistor. And yes, there is test equipment out there. The Sencor TV analyzer, for example, prime example of a piece of test equipment that will ring out the transformer. But my boss was too cheap. He would not buy any test equipment. I had a digital meter, a frequency counter, and a scope. And it was my own scope. I had to bring my own scope in. He would not buy any required test equipment. It didn't matter what it was. He wouldn't buy it. He would tell me, if you want that $4,000 analyst, you go buy it with your own money. And it's like, no, I don't own the shop. I work for you. So why would I buy it with my own money? Because you're making more off of this repair than I am. I'm just an employee. So he wouldn't even buy a ring tester. That ESR meter that you see me using on my videos, I bought that myself with my own money and built it and used it at work. But the boss was, as Ferris Bueller would say, if you shoved a lump of coal up his ass in 2 weeks, you'd have a diamond. Seriously, he wouldn't spend a penny. And so, going back to these Sony TVs, the flyback transformer, very common failure. You would know immediately if you put the transistor in. It's not going to blow the transistor immediately as a rule, but when you turn the TV on, you'd get a picture that was horizontally collapsed, maybe only 2 or 3 inches wide, or it would start to squeal right away. So you'd know that the transformer was bad when you replaced the transistor. I'd always try to stock a transformer. I would always try to keep in stock one transformer and one transistor, because these were failing at a very high rate. I was going through on average 2 to 3 of them a week, and as I would use one, I would order another one in for the next set. That's the way you do it. When you've got fast moving parts, you keep inventory of the fast moving parts so that I could get a TV in the morning and have it fixed and delivered back to the customer in the afternoon. That's what we did to have a very successful service business. So anyway, one day the boss comes up to me and he's holding this invoice and he says, "What's with this?" "What do you mean?" "Well, what's this transformer? You ordered a transformer and I didn't see it. I didn't see you sell it. I didn't see it go out on a repair." I said, "Oh, it's my backup stock." And he was in one of his moods that he would get into very frequently. And this particular mood was, "Why are you stocking this part? You're taking money out of my pocket. I've got this. This is going to be dead inventory. You're never going to use this." I said, "Calm down, man. I've used 3 of them this month. So, it's not going to sit here very long." I said to the boss, I said, "You make me the service manager. You tell me, manage the parts, manage the business, manage the service department. You know what you need. I'm not going to bother you. I'm not going to micromanage you. You're going to manage, and then you come along and you micromanage me." So I said, "If you want to order all the parts, then I'll bring everything to you and you can order them and you can say yes or no or whatever, right?" But, anyway, the boss takes the part and he sends it back. And to teach me a lesson, he deducts the restocking charge of 15% and he deducts the postage to send it back to, I think they were in Chicago at the time. Sony had closed their parts departments here and everything was coming out of, I think it was Chicago, or no, Kansas City. So the cost to ship it back to Kansas City plus the restocking charge, he deducted from my paycheck as a way to teach me a lesson for ordering parts that were in his eyes unnecessary. The saying, "What goes round?" Well, it was probably 2 or 3 days later, another TV comes in. And I know it's going to need this transformer. I just know it because I changed so many of them. I changed probably 50 of these transformers over the previous year. That's how frequent it was. I was doing 1 or 2, sometimes as much as 3 of them a week. So there's a lot of these sets on the market. So anyway, I know this TV is going to need this transformer, but I'm not ordering it, and I'm not quoting on it. See, what I would do is when a TV came in that might have needed the transformer, I would always quote. I would quote the customer and say, "This is what's gone. There's a good chance the transformer's gone. The transistor for sure has failed. There's a good chance the transformer is gone. This is how much it's going to cost if you need to replace the transformer and the transistor. And if the transformer has not failed, it'll be like $100. I think it was $120 was what the transformer sold for, somewhere around there. It'll be like $120 less if we don't need to replace the transformer, right? So I'd always give people the cost up front, so they knew what the maximum was they were going to be looking at total. That's with the pickup and delivery and the labor and the tax and the parts. So it was never a surprise. But after the boss came down on me and sent this transformer back and charged me, and he charged me about $30 or $35 is what the shipping and the restocking charge came to. I probably only made maybe $50, $60 on the repair, and he's taken $35 back from me to teach me a lesson. Anyway, next one comes in, and I know for sure that the transformer is probably going to be gone. But at this point, I was done. I could care less. I had made up my mind that I was getting out of that business. And I had already started working for a satellite installation company, going out on weekends, putting up dishes, and found that it's actually kind of fun. right? So I'd already started doing that. And the guy I was working for he was coming up to me saying, hey, I need to know if you're going to be with me full time or not, because, if you're not going to be with me full time, I got to find somebody else. So he was kind of pressuring me to leave. Anyway, this TV comes in, and I knew damn well the flyback. I had this gut feeling that this is not just going to be the transistor on this one. This is going to be the flyback for sure. But I already got hell for ordering a part in that I didn't need. So this time I phone the customer and I say, yeah, I'm sorry, it's just, it's the horizontal output transistor, and it's going to be this much. And I didn't tell them if the transformer's gone, it's going to be another $120 or something, right? Or whatever. I think it was $120. They were quite expensive, these transformers. By the time the markup is on there, they were like $120. Anyway, I get the transistor in, order it in. It takes like 3 days to get here because everything's shipped out of Kansas City. Put the transistor in, turn it on, the TV picture comes up, it's about 4 inches wide, and it starts getting hot right away. Okay, transformer's gone. So I go, hey boss, yes, the transformer's gone on this set. Well, change it. Well, yeah, okay, I got to order it. But I said, I got to quote the customer because I didn't quote him that the transformer could be. So now he starts yelling at me that I'm incompetent because that's just the way that the guy was. And anyway, I phoned the customer and I say, yeah, unfortunately, the transformer is also bad on your set. There was no way of knowing that until I got the transistor in. But yeah, unfortunately, it's going to be another $120. I have to order the transformer. So the guy, I hold the phone about a foot away so that I don't go deaf from the customer yelling in my ear. And then, okay, yeah, he says order it, and okay, so I hang up, and or he wants to talk to the boss. He says, I want to talk to the boss. So anyway, I hang up the phone, and no sooner did I hang up, and it's the phone ringing, and it's the guy phoning back now wanting to talk to the boss about this extra charge. So now the boss comes back, and he's yelling at me again because I had to quote the guy. And I said, I had the transformer in stock and you sent it back. So I said, if you want to play by your rules, I'll play by your rules, right? So he says, get that transformer coming. So I contact Sony to order the transformer, and it's on back order. Now this is the same part that was just sent back less than a week before. May not have even arrived there yet, but I'm sure it did, and they sent it out to somebody else because now the part was on back order, and the part stayed on back order for I think it was 5 weeks. You can imagine every day the phone ringing multiple times a day by the owner of this TV phoning to see if it was ready yet, and the boss would come back and he would yell at me like it's my fault that the part's on back order. He would come back and he would yell at me, and he'd tell me to get Sony on the phone, and I would pretend to dial the phone because he's standing at the doorway to the shop with his hands on his hips, wanting me to find out where the part is. So I would pretend to dial the phone, pretend that I was on hold for 30 seconds, and pretend that I was talking to somebody, asking them where the part was, because they didn't want to hear from me. The part's on back order. They don't want me phoning to see when's it going to be. Right? So I would pretend to phone, and I'd be like, yeah, hello, okay, it's calling about the part, the transformer, any word on it? I'd pause for a second. Still on back order, right? Any ETA? Really? So, oh, really? No, really? So it's going to be another couple weeks. Okay. And here we are in full regenerative braking. Haven't touched the brakes yet. Anyway, 5 weeks later, the part comes in. I put the part in the TV. I send it on its way. The next day I show up for work, and the boss jumps all over me. I only charged the customer the freight to get the first part, and there was a second freight charge to order the second part, and I didn't charge him for it. Therefore, that extra, I think it was $3, was going to be deducted from my paycheck because I didn't charge the guy for it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I walked out. I just said to him, I just turned around and I said, I'm out of here. And I walked out, and I was done. That's how I got out of the TV repair business, for any of you guys that are interested. After 20 years, gas is 85 cents, it's getting cheaper. But after 20 years in the business at one shop, I just threw it all away because I was so fed up working for the guy that I was working for. And I left. And at that particular time, the guy that I was working for as well, putting up the satellite dishes, I phoned him up and I said, hey, I'm available now. I said, I just walked out of the shop and I said, I'm available to come and work for you. So he said, oh, great. So he started throwing orders at me, and I started putting up satellite dishes, and I was doing lots of them. So anyway, that was how I left the TV repair business after 20 years of working on TVs and VCRs and camcorders and stereo equipment and stuff. And that was 2003. And I said to myself, I'll never work on electronics again. I promised myself. When I left that business, I promised myself I would never work on electronics again. I was done. And I stayed away for about 5 years before, and I'd only caved in because people were asking me. People would come up and say, hey, you used to work at such and such a place. Now, the shop I worked at, they shut down. The store closed in, I think it was the summer of 2012. The market conditions had changed, and I guess it became unprofitable, and he shut down and shut it all down in 2012. And that's about the time that people started coming back to me after the shop closed. They started tracing me, looking me up, and hey, you used to work at the shop there. You want to fix something for me? But anyway, I did a satellite game for, I guess, about a year, just a little over a year. I did it from summer of 2003 into 2004. And 2004 was the year that the NHL went out on strike. And because of that, there was not a lot of installs that fall. What drove satellite installation was the NHL center ice and the NFL package, but mostly the NHL center ice. That was the year that they launched the NHL center ice package. I think it was in 2002 or 2003. So that was a big driver in the satellite subscriptions, was people wanting to watch hockey. So it was crazy busy. Like that fall of 2003, I was putting up, I'd leave my house at about 6:30 in the morning, and I would be gone all day, and I would get back home around 10 o'clock at night. And I did that 6 days a week. The money was insane for putting up satellite dishes. It was just stupid money. I'd be getting checks that were like 10 grand or $12,000 for a month. Now, mind you, my expenses came off of that, right? But it was all that was. All the expenses came off that, the cable, the clips, the gas, all the other crap that had to get paid for. But the money was crazy in that year that I did that. It was like, wow, now I know why people do this stuff. But it was at the end of the day, though, by the time all the expenses were paid, it wasn't such a rosy picture then. But anyway, did that for a year, and then the summer of 2004, that's about the time that the bottom fell out, because there was no NHL, there was no hockey season. The players were on strike that year, and the number of subscriptions dropped off substantially. And that was the time I decided I'm going to get out of this and get into telecom, which is where I am now, and I've been doing that for the past 15 years. Anyway, We're, I guess we're almost at, this might be Mission that we're at now. I haven't even been paying attention. It's clouding over a bit though. And I say there's still a fair number of cars out here. I'm quite surprised. I see more people out in this area than in the big city. You know, in Vancouver, there was hardly anything. But man, you know, everything's all lined up out here, and there's a fair bit of traffic for a so-called pandemic when they're telling everybody to stay home. Must be a police station around here. I just passed a couple cops. Oh, that's interesting. 40 kilometer an hour speed limit. You don't see too many oddball speed limits like that. Like we see 20 and we see 30 and we see 50 and 60 and 70 and 80, but 40? Don't see too many often that it's 40 clicks. I've done 85 kilometers so far. I'm still on battery and I've still got a little bit of charge left. We'll see what my battery maxes out, how far I get on the battery, but yeah, it's been doing very good. Where is this that we are? I don't even know what town this is. This is I think this is we're coming up on Agassiz. Is this Mission that we are now? Abbotsford left, Agassiz and Harrison Hot Springs. I'm going straight, so we'll get in this lane. Yeah, we're making some pretty good progress here on the battery today. I just say it's a nice day for a nice little quiet cruise out in the country. Ah, here's the train station. This is the West Coast Express. There's the commuter train right there, West Coast Express. So that takes people downtown. And even they have been canceling a lot of their trains just because there's not as many people riding it now because of the whole stay home thing, right? So this must be Mission where we are. This is kind of one of my favorite rides on my bike. I'll do this run probably 3 or 4 times a season just to get out, you know, ride along here because there's usually not a lot of traffic or not as much traffic. This is, I think, a lot of guys this is their run. They'll do we call it the big circle drive. Take a Highway 7 out all the way out to Hope, and then turn around and go back. So there, my car just transitioned over to gas now. I got 91.3 kilometers is what I managed on this charge. That's pretty good, considering it's only rated at 80. And I did 91.3 today. Not bad. The most I've done is 108, but I was also driving at some freeway speeds here as well, so that freeway speeds will burn more of the battery up. So now I'm going to run on gas for the rest of this trip. Cross over some train tracks here. Got a bridge to go over. So even though the engine's running on the car, you don't even hear it. It's so quiet. Unlike the first generation Volt primarily uses the engine just to generate power. First generation can use the engine to supply some power to the wheels, but it's primarily used just to generate power. The first generation Volt cannot 100% power the wheels from the engine. And that's the big difference between the first and the second generation. The second generation can. Second generation Volt can operate as a single motor electric, a dual motor electric. Mode 3 is operating with the engine producing energy for the electric system and the car being propelled by the electric motor. Mode 4 is engine power along with the electric motors for assistance. And mode 5, the engine can drive the wheels directly without any input from the electric motors. The electric motors are then in power recovery mode, recovering any excess power and turning that into power to store in the battery. So it can operate in 5 different modes. And it indicates on the dash what mode it's in right now. Right now we're getting some power from the gas engine and some power from the electric motor. Both of them are operating in conjunction with each other. And now we're recovering power to the battery and using the gas engine. So excess power from the gas engine is going back into the battery. And now it's in gas engine mode itself without any power at all. It's in full gas drive. And now the gas engine shut off and we're back into the battery mode again because I've stored a little bit of energy. So the engine shuts off. It's quite the system to see it operating. It tells me on the dash. I have two little indicators. It'll either go yellow or green depending on what they're doing. And it splits on both sides. So one side shows the engine power, the other side shows the electric motor. So it's kind of neat the way that you can watch what is going on, how many kilowatts are coming in, or what's going into the battery, what's coming out of the battery, and how much power the engine's producing. It all is displayed on the dash. So it's kind of neat to see this thing operating in this mode because I see it operate in this mode so infrequently. The last time I actually witnessed the car operating like this was when I was on holidays last year, because for all the rest of the driving I've been doing, it never goes into gas mode. So let's see here what my I've done 8,874 kilometers is how far it's gone since the last time the gas engine actually ran. Now that's pretty darn efficient. And I'm sure as disappointed as anybody else who has one of these cars when they announced that they weren't going to make them anymore because it's such a good car. Puts Teslas to shame. I like the slogan. Electric car when you want it, gas car when you need it. None of this BS of having to find a place to charge and sit there for, half an hour or 45 minutes or an hour. Well, it's guaranteed you're going to sit longer than that because when you're driving an electric car and you have to stop to charge up, you don't have any options. You have to stop and charge. Guaranteed, every place that you stop at, you will wait to get onto the chargers because as electric cars become more popular, more people will have the same idea and they'll all be stopping in the same places. That was a problem 5 years ago and it's still a problem today. And I think it's probably a a bigger problem today, even though there are many more fast charging stations around now than there were 5 years ago. There's also a lot more electric cars on the road and people trying to take them on road trips. That's one of the reasons I bought the first Volt, and the second was so that I can do road trips. I've got all the advantages of driving a full electric car when I'm around town. I never run any gas through it at all, ever. Even the older one that my wife drives, she goes through a little bit more gas than me. A tank of gas lasts her 2 months because she's driving beyond the range. The old one only has a 50 to 60 kilometer range, and quite often she'll drive beyond 60 kilometers in a day, whereas I have 90 kilometer range on this, and typically in an average day I might put on 40, maybe 50. So because the range is longer on this one, I never go beyond it. But it's nice because when I want to do a little road trip like this or go on a long road trip, I had many planned for this summer. I was going to do a bunch of photography runs where I'm going to scout out, go set up my 4K camera and just do some nice pictures. And now with this whole COVID stay home, no access, no place to stay, right? All the motels and hotels are shut down. All the small towns, they don't want anybody coming in. So I guess my summer holidays are going to be kind of up in the air. I'll be doing these little short, go out and shoot some pictures and get home. Maybe do an overnight where I'll just sleep in my car. But I certainly won't be going on any longer trips where I got to stay away for 3 or 4 or 5 days when there's not going to be any place to stay. Now, maybe things will change a bit by July and August when I typically do this, but it's unlikely, for what they've been saying on the news, it's unlikely that things are going to change much. So we're getting a little bit of the twisties here on Highway 7. Still haven't decided how far this little road trip is going to take me today. I might, when I get to Hope, stop for lunch, and then, which means stopping at the drive-thru, because you can't really stop anywhere for lunch. No one's letting anybody in, but I may just decide when I get there to take a drive up the Coquihalla up towards Merritt and turn it into a little bit longer road trip. As you see, tomorrow it's supposed to rain. So tomorrow I'm going to be stuck at the house. I'm not going to be able to go anywhere because it's going to be raining. I'm not going to want to go anywhere. No fun doing road trips or driving or riding motorcycles and stuff in the rain. So now we have a bridge here. This is the swing bridge. I guess it's a lift bridge, not so much a swing bridge. Look at this jackass. It's 80 kilometer zone. I'm doing 100, and I got a guy passing me with a big tank of fuel in the back of his truck. Yeah, good move, man. Like, where are you gonna get? Where I'm going the same speed as everybody else, but yeah, I guess not fast enough for this daredevil who's got a It looks like he's got about a 120 liter tank of fuel sitting in the back of his truck. Yeah, that's good. So we're going to get into a bit of a windy highway here, so I'll leave the camera running for a bit. So this is a really nice road, especially if you're riding a motorcycle. On a nice day, this is a really nice drive. That would be a nice thing to photograph. Let's have another little scout trip today, so that when I do come up with my camera to look for stuff to take pictures of, get some ideas where I might like to go and take some photos. Probably hear the engine running there. It just runs at one constant speed. Going down that hill there, I did not use my brakes at all. I used the regenerative braking on demand, which is just a paddle on the steering wheel. There's two levels of regeneration. That's a goat on the side of the road. There's two levels. I can switch to the low range on my shifter, and I've got the flappy paddle. So each one will add about 30 or so kilowatts of regenerative braking. So if I put them both on, that's 60. That'll slow this thing down pretty quick. Fortunately, it does turn on the brake lights when you're doing this. That's something that the first generation Volt did not do. First generation, you put it into low range and it would only generate around, I think it was 20 kilowatts of regeneration. It would slow you down, but not to the same degree that this one does. But it would not turn on the brake lights, so it would catch the driver behind you off guard sometimes because he's not paying attention. And all of a sudden, you've slowed down and he is not aware that you slowed down. It's like driving a standard and gearing down, right? Taking your foot off the gas and using engine compression to slow you down. The guy behind you doesn't know because you haven't put the brakes on. So that was a flaw with the first generation that they fixed for the second generation, so that the brake lights automatically come on once you start to slow down. Okay, we're just approaching Hope. See, we're starting to get into the mountains here. What's our sign up ahead say? Avoid non-essential travel. COVID-19. Stay home. Avoid gatherings. Left here. And what way am I going here? This is we're getting into Hope. Beyond Hope. It's past lunchtime, so I think I'm going to stop here in Hope, grab a bite to eat. Been on the road now for a couple of hours. Look at that, it's telling me my speed. Get a big radar up there in that sign to let you know how quick you're moving. all these places are pretty empty. And of course, the campgrounds are all closed because they don't want anybody out here camping. Here's small town Hope. Not a lot of cars out here today. So I'm going to take Highway 5 up towards Merritt. We'll see how the Volt performs. I'm not going to put it into mountain mode. So I want to see if I run out of power going up this giant hill. The old Volt would most certainly run out of juice going up this big hill coming up. As you had to go into mountain mode. It had to be done, or you run into a power limited situation. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave this car in normal mode, and says maximum speed 110 unless otherwise posted. So this is a fast corridor here. Let's get going. It's 120 in some areas. They may have dropped it to 110. It was 120 last time I went up here. Used to be 120 up here. I think they dropped the speed back because everybody just goes flying up this road here. Uh-oh. It's not April 30th yet. It says I must use winter tires. That bong was that I hit 120. So, of course, for those that watch that highway through hell, this is the highway. Hopefully we won't encounter any snow today. But I am going to be getting up to where it is pretty high, going over the summit there. If we encounter any snow, I'm going to be looking for a place to turn around and head back. Yeah, they dropped the speed back to 110. It was 120 up here last year. Oh, there we go. Speed's gone back to 120. Cool. Like that, 120 kilometers per hour. Fastest freeway in all of Canada, right here. Most people will be cruising down here at 130, 140, 150. Get a ticket at that speed, but still 120 clicks an hour makes it a pretty good clip up here. Let's see what type of pace I can keep up here going. Is also a variable speed freeway, so they've got overhead signs that they can change the speed on. So depending on the weather conditions, they can drop it down to 90 or 80 or 70, depending on if the weather conditions aren't very good. Let's pour some coal on going up this hill. I see snow ahead. Okay, we're going into the variable speed corridor now. It says if sign is blank, last speed is enforced. Let's see what speed these things are at. Should be at 120 because normally if they're less than that, there's a light flashing on it. I don't see any light flashing, so that's 120. So the road conditions are good today. Lots of power. Lots of power. I just sprinted from 125 to 140 there, and the car didn't even hesitate. Oh look, there's some snow at the side of the road. You're getting up pretty high into the hills here right now. This is all uphill. One big huge climb all the way up to the summit. Here we are coming up on Box Canyon now. It's like 10 degrees out here now, so there's no chance of any ice on the road. That's the chain up area on the right for trucks, cars to put their tire chains on if needed. Let's sprint again. 145, 149, 150, 153, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to max out at 160, which is the top speed of the car. They're doing 157. Just 3 below where they would take my car away if they caught me speeding and call me a cab. This is the steepest part of the Coquihalla right here, going into Box Canyon through the snow sheds, snow tunnels. Right now, my other Bolt, if I did not put it in mountain mode, I'd be chugging along. Oh, they've dropped the speed down to 80 here. Maximum speed is 80. Curious, interesting. Is there going to be anything on the road here? Well, that's Florida game. And I can still climb. It looks like I'm finally running out of steam. I'm doing 121 and it ain't going any faster. But I did not put the car in mountain mode. And I'm going up the steepest grade here and I'm doing on 121. And no one else is catching me. Now 100% in engine power. There's no battery reserve left now. I've burned off the remaining reserve of the battery. It's holding me at 119. Still isn't bad. Had I put it in mountain mode before coming up here, I could have been doing that at 150. There's snow piled up at the side of the road here. Holy smoke. Still a fair bit of snow here on the side of the road. We're now on the summit. This is as high as the freeway gets. Where the old, this area here I think is where the toll booths should be. Maybe they were a little bit ahead. dropped down to 6 degrees now. We're making pretty good time there. I had to put the brakes on as we were creeping up on 150 there for a bit. Everybody's going that speed. But we're back down to the posted speed of 120. Text stop. It says, sign says it can wait. Text stop 4 kilometers ahead. That would be where the old toll booths used to be, because this used to be a toll highway for many years. You had to pay $20 to drive this road. That was when it was first built. And then once the freeway was paid for, it took about 20 odd years, I guess. Once the freeway was paid for, they took the tolls away. Okay, now we're out of the variable speed corridor. As we're losing altitude. Heading mainly downhill now, all the way down into Merritt. I think when I get to Merritt, I'm going to head over the connector towards Princeton and then head back home via the Hope-Princeton Highway. Merritt's 62 kilometers from here. So, get to Merritt, hang a right over towards Princeton, and then down the Hope-Princeton, and then back home. And that will be my little adventure for today. See, I'm passing a lot of these buses that are not in service. Must be new buses headed somewhere or doing something with them. Well, put them in storage because there's no bus right. None of the buses are running. That's right. Okay, we're just approaching Merritt. We're going to take our exit here, take the connector over towards Princeton, which is another nice little drive. We'll do some recording once we get onto that road, as it's got some nice twists and turns to it as well. I'm just going to take the exit here onto what they call the 97C or 5A or 8 connector. This is the road here. We're going to put on the full regenerative braking and slow this sucker down quick for this. And into the corner. Yes, love it. Love the regenerative braking. It really pulls the speed down quick on this thing. And at the light, we're going to hang a left. Regenerative braking so strong it even locks up my seatbelts. So this is where we're headed, Princeton, 84 kilometers, so just over 50 miles, and then the Hope-Princeton Highway back down to Hope, and then back down the 401 back home. on the cutoff that I have to take to go towards Princeton. If I go straight, it would take me up to Beachland, Summerland, and Kelowna. We're taking the Aspen Grove exit, number 5A, and this will take me down into Princeton, where I can connect with the Hope Princeton Highway, and that'll take me back towards Hope. Cattle guard. In the summer, this is a really nice drive because it's all green. Right now, everything's brown because nothing's been growing yet. Wildlife corner. So I could see some deer or elk, I guess, around here. We know moose. We're not far enough north for moose, but certainly deer and elk around this area. Now, usually when I do this drive, I'm going the opposite direction because I usually go up, take the Hope Princeton up to Hope, and then go the other direction. It's amazing all the shooting I've been doing on this camera so far today, and I still got over 60 minutes of recording time left on a 128 gig memory card. This is a great little camera. So I just stopped there at that lookout. Still some snow on the ground, and of course ice in the lake. It's about 12 degrees out here today, so the snow is not going to last much longer. It's just a really nice day for this little day trip. And yeah, I just checked the amount of memory remaining. I've still got like an hour of recording time left on this camera. It's amazing how much 128 gigs of memory will actually store in 4K resolution. This little DJI camera is going to become my main camera for shooting stuff on the road, like shooting out the window. But yeah, my dash cam still records everything as well, which is great for the time lapses where I want to do a full on time lapse of the whole entire trip. But there's lots of times where I just want to record the highlights, the interesting parts, and not so much the boring parts, and that's what I'll be using this one for, instead of using my Sony X33, which is what I've been using in the past on a windshield mount. I'll be using this one because I think the quality of it is every bit as good, plus it's got the gimbal stabilization, so it doesn't tend to bounce around. And then I'll take my Sony AX100 for the outside static shots on a tripod, of course. When I'm doing shooting, when I do my scenery stuff, I shoot it all usually from a tripod or from a gimbal camera like this. We've got ridges. You hear this? They got them on either side of the non-existing yellow line that is all worn off on the road. Check out the valley on the right there. This is Allison Lake over on the right. We're about 30 kilometers north of Princeton at this point. Princeton at about 2 kilometers. So just down the hill here. Here we are in Princeton, another town that I'm sure is completely shut down. So now on the picturesque Hope-Princeton Highway, just leaving Princeton. This is another nice twisty road that's very popular with motorcycles because it's not as traveled as the other roads. Oh, there's an old car there. Not as traveled as the Coquihalla or the Highway 1. So, because there's less traffic here, a lot of two-wheeled enthusiasts take this road because it's a nice twisty road and it's relatively quiet all the time. There's a sign back there that just said, all parks are closed. Going on a big climb here up to the Sunday Summit. This is the highest peak on this run. no loss of power. Maybe it wasn't the summit. We appear to be still heading uphill. We're close to the top here. Engine's actually off now as we're going downhill. So the engine is shut off and we're recovering power going all the way down the hill. I wonder how much we will recover. A fair bit, I would think. Back on again as we're once again going uphill. The engine shuts off as we're starting to descend on the hill. Looks like they need to repaint these roads again. brake check up ahead, therefore there must be a big downhill. Yeah. This is the summit here, Sunday Summit. So we're just on the top. We're at 1,262 meters. So from here all the way downhill. As you can see, no other traffic. So few cars on here. It's incredible. I got the road to myself. All the way down here, I'm not using the brakes at all. I'm just choosing to regenerate on demand as needed. we caught up with some traffic. Didn't think I'd see any. The road was empty for so long, but there's some big trucks ahead that are going relatively slow. Oh, good, a passing lane. Take this opportunity to pass them. Of course, you got two trucks, one trying to pass another up ahead. Dumbasses. And truck drivers wonder why they're not liked. These jerks. One truck trying to pass another in the passing lane. To hold everybody else up so no one's going to get around anything by the time the passing lane ends. And this son of a bitch is going to make it one truck ahead. But nobody else is going to get ahead of these slow trucks. He's still not moving over. Oh, there he goes. That gas station's closed. Their sign is out anyway. And here we are in Manning Park. G-forces affect the 3-axis gimbal. Go around the corner quick and the camera tilts because of the G-forces. Someone pushing a cart? Are you kidding? Highway 401 now, just on the final leg home. As you can see, it's clouding over. They're calling for rain tonight, and it's going to rain tomorrow. So I had some pretty good weather today. Hopefully the pictures have all turned out good. We're going to wrap this up now because the rest of the trip back is pretty boring, pretty straight. So I'll thank you guys for watching. Hope you stuck with it for the whole thing, and we'll see you on the road in the summer, if we can get on the road. Today has been an adventure in itself because all the rest areas have been closed. The washrooms are closed. The gas stations, you can't use the washrooms. They're all locked up tighter than a drum. It's ridiculous. Gonna make for some pretty uncomfortable road trips, I think, if everything is shut down, if you know what I mean. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.